Our Tomb Guard plus Halberds version, any good in patch 5.2. I've been almost reluctant to reproduce my well-received at the time Meatless Meat Shield video about productive use of trash infantry, but after wrapping up a Cetra campaign, 20,000 income per turn is never wrong for the record, I saw that the perceived awfulness of Tomb King's infantry was seen as a ball and chain on the faction. Don't get me wrong, they do have a Gorst-like approach to infantry, but today we're discussing the Tomb Guard, which are notably less trashy than the rest. Why? Because you have to fight to use them, and you should feel rewarded for going through the trouble. Recruited by unit capacity, Tier 2 for regulars and Tier 3 for halberds. This gets you 120 entities on Ultra Unit scale, as in not 160 like the explicitly chaff Spearmen and Warriors. Having said that, health is 9,870 unit-wide for 82 per entity. That is, 120 entities have virtually the same health as 160 do for regular skeletons. Armor comes at 55, which is a fair bit better, but no better than mid-tier for these quote-unquote armored Tomb King's infantry. However, the shields are still silver-grade infantry, blocking 55% of small arms fire, making these a shining example of a small arms missile tarpit. Leadership is 65, which is exceptional for undead infantry. Speed 28, charge speed 31, so they are slow. Quite slow. Chaos Warriors, slow. Melee attack begins at 32, with an attack interval of a fairly restrained 4.4, no splash damage. While this is no more than decent, considering it's an undead faction, it's high. Melee defense starts at 41, and yes, undead often favor defense, but this is pretty nutty. Weapon strength is given as 42, split between base 33 and armor piercing 9. That is, while something like, say, Saurus Warriors has double the armor piercing damage, they only have one more point of base damage. Tomb Guard are thus geared toward absolutely slaughtering low armored units and doing pretty decently up to midway up that chain. Charge bonus is a mere 8, and mass is 120 per entity. The Halberds version is of course harder to get and rarer. Number of entities, health, armor, and higher quality tower shields are the same as its leadership and speed, but melee attack drops to 25 and attack interval slips to 4.9. So they really do come off as halberdiers, but shielded missile tarpit halberdiers. What was the problem with this exactly? Melee defense starts at 47. I repeat, melee defense starts at 47. It doesn't end there. Weapon strength is given as a mere 29, split between base 9 and 20 armor piercing, with a bonus versus large of 19. A bonus of 19, as in attacking Knights Errant is now 25 plus 19 equals 44, as in weapon strength is 29 plus 19 equals 48, heavily favoring armor piercing. Both varieties are undead, cause fear, hide in forest, can be healed by Tomb King's mechanics, and the Halberds version has charge defense versus large and charge reflection, the latter doubling melee damage when a charge bonus is active against it, if they were braced at the time. In the redline skills, Sun-Scorched Bones at 3 pips adds plus 8 armor and plus 6 melee defense, so even the armor boost is restrained as opposed to other factions, but it's flat increase, not percentage. Here, you're going from 55 to 63. Unfading Memory grants rank 7 Tomb Guard plus 10 armor, so that's up to a potential 73, speed plus 10% for a bit of a boost there, and 15% missile resistance, raising that to 70% from the front. Pro tip, that's a lot. In the tech tree, it's a bit of a shame that support does not overlap with Nehekara warriors, and so on. From the wisdom of the 4th dynasty, famous for its special lore being the Ushabti Doomstack Guy. Pride in Service grants melee attack plus 5 and melee defense plus 5 for Tomb Guard, and Stronger Binding provides plus 10 armor and plus 10% weapon strength, so a max of 83 armor like this, and the weapon strength is welcome. Without doing too deep a dive, the special heralds purchased in the tech tree for 150 canoptic jars provide a couple of potential boosts. Herald of Rasatra provides Death Blow to them, and while I wouldn't really have recommended this before Slayers were touched for the latest main DLC, Death Blow really does give plus 20% damage when the unit is near wipeout, and dying entities get a free attack in melee before expiring. And Herald of Marak grants plus 10 armor and plus 12% weapon strength to Tomb Guard specifically. Moreover, anyone with Petra the Great Father blessing available, and this includes Cetra, will grant plus 8 melee defense, and Cetra's Restless Minions as plus 5 melee attack for good measure. So how do we use Tomb Guard? Well, there's a night and day difference with how you use the two varieties. In both cases, you could still consider them anvil units, but Tomb Guard, default, are chaff killers, in an army filled with chaff itself. With anything like proper leadership, they fight to the grave, they do not go down easily, even against damage dealer style units, although go down they will, and they provide an anchor for everything else you're doing, be it chaff themselves or other Tomb Guard or your lords or skeleton archers. Also, don't forget that the lord's mere presence provides plus 5 melee attack and defense in a bubble, so they fight even harder. The Halberds version, on the other hand, is your only mainline anti-armor infantry, yet it comes off as borderline useless against dwarfs. What'll happen is that the anti-armor chip damage will help, but you'll have two anvils jockeying against each other, doing a lot of clanging and banging and not much damaging. In sharp contrast, using them as spearmen replacements will make them your first option against enemy chariots, cavalry, trolls, and giants, and they're going to fight hard for you in every respect, putting in impressive performances. And of course, extra good ones if Cetra or some other Tomb King is personally there to participate. Switching back to the first, even though the shields aren't of optimal use, regular Tomb Guard are what I'd almost call Slayer insurance. Not a hard counter per se, but a great way to amplify damage against them, combined with humble skeleton archers, and you can get stunning anti-Slayer performance, at least relative to a lot of other stuff. Either way, the shields feel like a sad waste against Khorne and Vampire Counts, but Empire Gunnery Sergeants curse foully at the very sight of a Tomb Guard battle line. But at this point I want to be clear about something. If the enemy decides Tomb Guard are just chaff, they'll ignore the Tomb Guard and put all the energy into wiping out your constructs and other stuff like that. If this happens, I don't care, it's speed 28. You have to be aggressive with them and shove those shields into the enemy's face. It's a slow anvil, but it's a sinewy one that doesn't get blasted apart unless it's by a massive artillery or spell disparity. And while those can exist, an ignored chaff force must assert itself to bog the enemy down and force the creation of battle lines, sow confusion and chaos. You can't let the enemy sit back and just mulch your skirmishers until they are bone dust. So while there is value in forming a battle line with archers behind it, that's no good if the enemy doesn't attack that line. Know when the time comes to switch to offense and put your exposed skeleton bats into it. It's not about Tomb Guard being elite so much as Tomb Guard being just better. They kill more and they hold out longer. That's good enough. And you need to assert that superiority while your mobile elements do their job. Take care and have fun dragging the foe back to the tomb with you. It's easier to stand on the shoulders of giants when they've been tripped, hamstrung, and tied to the ground. So bring them down to your level. Tarpit, but with purpose.